Good morning, Rob. Did you want to check your mic real quick?
Yes. Can you hear me? Mic check. Oh, actually,
Yes.
hold on. I'm going to use the earbuds, actually. Can you hear me with these?
Yes.
Huh. I wonder why it's going, speakers are going to a different place. I got a few little setups I got to work on here. Give me a second. Okay, I switched over to headphones. Can you hear me on the headphones?
Yeah. Yes, that's better. We were getting kind of a teeny echo before, but that sounds good.
Okay, and then can you? Oh, there I am on camera. I'm trying to see if I've got the top camera. It looks like I've got the top camera going. I'm going to do that for background. So the video look okay too?
Yes, background looks good.
Okay. And then I got one more other, my printer's not working this morning. I'm getting all sorts of challenges, so I got to have two screens and look at my notes on a different page. All right. Oh, awesome.
Rob, I'm going to mute you, okay?
Yes, please, thanks.
Rob, we heard some background noise. Did you want to check your sound again? If you unplug.
All right, can you hear me okay?
We heard,
were
you moving a seat around?
Oh, what's that?
Were you moving your seat? Because it sounded like wheels on a...
Oh, probably. Luckily, my notes finally printed, so crisis averted.
Oh, that's what it was.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we heard some background noise, but that's probably it. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. Good. Good morning, Mayor Price, Director Price. Everyone, we are now recording on Zoom, and we've been live on YouTube for a little bit. Good morning, Director Rayburn.
Good morning, April. Am I loud and clear?
Yes, sound is good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hit play on there?
So this is Rob. Am I able to view this, change the settings on this so I can see more than just the speaker? Oh, I see
Hi,
gallery.
Rob.
I got it.
Yes,
Okay, thank
exactly
you.
right.
And are you going to have the camera on in the boardroom as well?
Yes, a couple minutes before we actually start the meeting, we'll drop the slide share. This is for the public just to see that this is the meeting, and then you'll be able to see the room.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, Chair Saylor.
Rob, can I get an audio check, please?
Sounds perfect.
Copy that. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Saylor.
Good morning.
Looks like we have 3 directors in the meeting so far, Chair Saylor.
Well, that's just not going to do. We're going to need a few more.
Yes.
Mimi reached out, and I believe everybody, for the most part, is going to be on right at 10.
Great.
Just as we were getting excited to be back in person again, we're going to do our best today to get through all the technical slowdowns that we might encounter.
It's going to be a rousing success, a meeting that will go down in history.
It will be. It's going to be our last virtual meeting, right?
Well, yeah,
It's the word of optimism for today.
don't jinx it, man. We're hoping. Morning, Mr. Powers. Welcome aboard.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Well, pretty good. That's quite a view you got there.
Oh, yes, I have stuff keeping an eye on the system, and I got so I have a big monitor up here. I can see every train in the system and
Oh,
its current status, and where we are with if there's customer interactions and police interactions. So it's a kind of a very dynamic, state-of-the-art screen.
wow. We're gonna have to have a tour of that. That sounds pretty cool.
Soon I'll have all the Capital Corridor trains on the screen here too.
That's
Rob.
right.
Be
When we
tracking
have
that.
our new system up, we'll be able to do that
Yeah.
this year. So
Oh my-
we'll add another screen so you can relax more in your office.
I think, Rob, I just saw somebody flash across my screen here. I think Kurchowski just flashed across my screen. Is he on this call?
He's presenting for Sassoon today. Yeah, it's for Solana Transportation Authority.
Ah,
Yeah, he came on and then he quickly moved away, I guess.
He couldn't quite retire. So
probably saw
we're
me,
happy to have him
Chairperson
back.
Sailor, and said, "I'm out of here."
Oh, he still has that great smile.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome.
David, I've been thinking about you a little bit. You and Art Dow when I was watching the French Open, and I know you're a tennis player and Art's a tennis player, and Nadal just kind of hung in there and persevered, didn't he?
It's great for the older generation to see him keep playing.
Yeah. How are you, David? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good.
And
Your
yourself,
family?
I hope. Yeah, I'm staying healthy and
Yeah, we're doing good. We're making good, smart, data-driven decisions, and being very transparent. So it's we're hanging in there.
good. Great.
All right,
Just
so what
about time.
are we up to?
Okay.
It looks like we have 7 directors, so
All right.
not quite, almost there.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Spearing.
And I'm just checking, this is Bevan. Are you counting me in the 7?
Yes, good morning, Director Deputy, we did.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Certainly. Thank you.
Morning, Director Saltzman.
Good morning.
We need one more director, Chair Saylor.
Thank you.
We're right at 10, so not late yet. Gotta keep those trains running on time.
Chair Saylor, Director Dowden Calvillo is now in the meeting as well.
That brings us to quorum, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
All right, very good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, welcome everyone. So we do have a quorum, and we may lose a couple people before the meeting is over. So we want to go ahead and jump right into it. The time of our meeting is 10 o'clock, and we are here. So I want to call us to order. Mimi, will you be calling roll?
I will call the roll right now, Chair Saylor. This is April. Chair Saylor,
Thank you, April. Here.
Vice Chair Perales, Director Allen, Director Dusty?
Here.
Director Dusty? Oh. Director Freeland?
Here.
Director Harris? Director Holmes? Director Howdeshelt?
Here.
Director James?
Here.
Director Lee? Director McPartland?
Here.
Director Miller? Director Price?
Here.
Director Rayburn?
Here.
Director Saltzman?
Here.
Director Spearing?
Present.
Okay, Director Howell? Director Kennedy? Director Dowden Calvillo?
Present.
Director Partita? Director Rowlett? Thank you. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Director Howdeshelt, would you be able to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
Be happy to. Ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States
of America,
And to the
To the
republic,
republic for which it stands,
which stands,
Nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
liberty and
justice.
justice for all.
For all. Thank you, Director Howdeshelt. We have a quorum this morning. We may fall short of a quorum during the course of our meeting. If we do, then our business will need to terminate according to our secretary. So we'll get right into our our items here in just a second. I've got a few things to share with you. This is and I see Director Frericks has joined us. So April, if you can kind of keep track of folks as they come and go and let us know if we do dip below our quorum, we'll go ahead and get started. A few things to share with you. This is a teleconference, a Zoom meeting. It's being live streamed. You can watch it on our Capitol Corridor website, and you can also download the agenda and presentation materials at that same site. If you're joining by telephone, your microphones are automatically muted. If you wish to speak on an agenda item, please dial *9 to virtually raise your hand when public comment is announced. When it's your turn to speak, you may need to dial *6 to accept the unmute request. For public participants, please on the Zoom, please use the raise hand feature if you wish to speak. Colleagues on the members of the board, if you mute your microphone whenever you're not speaking, that would be appreciated because that reduces the background noise. If you wish to make a general public comment on items not on the agenda, as members of the public, you'll be given an opportunity to speak under item 7. If you have an item that you'd like to address us on, we will accept comments on each of those items, and we're limiting to 2 minutes. We hope that that's sufficient for anybody who's going to speak with us. And colleagues, if you're here participating via Zoom using computer audio, raise your hand by clicking the raise hand feature in the bottom right of the participant list. And if you're participating in the meeting via the telephone, dial *9. This is all pretty customary at this point for us all. Vice Chair Perales is not with us this morning, but the way we'll do it is we'll have other colleagues speak before the chair or the vice chair. And I also want to let you know that for the past several months, Vice Chair Perales and our Managing Director, Rob Padgett, have been working with Mr. Powers to create an opportunity to for this board to provide performance feedback to the managing director. Now, I think you all recall that the board historically has relied on the BART process for managing director feedback. That's worked out very well. We have no concerns about it, but I think it's important for us as board members for this organization to provide feedback for Mr. Powers to share in his performance evaluation. And thanks, Bob, for agreeing to participate that way with us. As a first step in that process, my office will send out a survey to each of you, and we're going to ask that you provide your input no later than July 27th, Mr. Padgett, that we are targeting.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so I'd like for you to take some time and respond so we can do kind of help Rob by giving him direct feedback on how our board views our operations. So that being the case, we've got I think an exciting meeting for us. We have our consent calendar as the next item on the agenda. Mr. Paget, do you have anything that I see your hand, Mr. Rayburn, but Mr. Paget, do you have anything to remove from the consent agenda?
No, I do not have anything to remove.
All right, Mr. Rayburn, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair Saylor. I'm interested in a brief discussion on item 5, the Cal ITP, with regard to marketing and care support. The questions come up with several.
Okay,
passengers.
just let's Robert, let's so we want to pull that off the agenda, off the consent agenda for discussion.
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda for more discussion? Okay.
I will move the consent calendar minus item 5. Mrs. Farrick.
Calvia's doubt. Okay, I was going to say I second. Go ahead.
I think Director Saltzman, did you make this? Did you second the motion? I think
Yes.
that was okay. Very good. And Director Dowd and Cavillo, I see that you're there, but we have a motion for the consent agenda less item 5 from Director Frerichs with a second by Director Saltzman. April, will you be calling the roll for us on this vote? And then we'll come to Director Rayburn's comments.
Certainly. Chair Saylor?
Aye. Okay.
Director Ferris?
Aye.
Director Dusty?
Yes.
Director Haudeshelt?
Yes.
Director James?
Yes.
Director McPartland?
Aye.
Director Price?
Aye.
Director Rayburn?
Yay.
Director Saltzman?
Yes.
Director Spearing?
Yes.
Director Dowd and Calvillo?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Director Rayburn, you would like to have a discussion on item 5?
Thank you very much, Chair Saylor. It's come to my attention that there's confusion about how the Cal ITP would work with for youth in particular who are not likely to have credit card access. And so I want to just be confident that our marketing and care support will include instructions for youth as well as families on how they can utilize the Cal ITP product.
Thanks for the comment and question, and I'll just reply. But if Jim Allison wants to add anything to my comments, I want him to have that opportunity. So first of all, central to this whole concept is we want to broaden the accessibility of ticketing mechanisms to everybody. So it's not just a credit card. There are also other mechanisms that are in place. And in fact, we're even looking at ways to provide really great support for people who generally operate in the cash world with some products. For the first minimum viable product, we're only going to sign up a couple hundred people, and we'll kind of build on that. And so what we're going to do is learn a lot about how it works on our service. At the same time, the issues like you're describing, we are going to learn a lot from some of the agencies like Monterey, for example, that are already a pilot. And I think we're collectively going to figure out how to better support youth, other folks who do not use the banking system and maybe rely on cash. And there's some really, really innovative things that are coming out of this work. And because California is such a large state, we have the buying power to be able to make some really interesting stuff happen. So we hear you for sure on that comment, and we very much support the sentiment that's raised. Jim, if you're available and would like to add anything to my comment, please feel free to do so.
No, I think you captured it well, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate your informed comments. Thank you.
Would you like to move
Chairman, I
approval?
move approval of this item, if that's okay with Director Rayburn.
Okay, we have a motion from Howdeshelt. Rayburn, are you seconding that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for item 5.5, or excuse me, 4.5. Please call the roll.
Chair Saylor,
Aye.
Director Duffy,
Aye.
Director Furich,
Aye.
Director Howdeshelt,
Yes.
Director Jane,
Yes.
Director McPartlin,
Aye.
Director Price, Director Price,
Aye.
Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Saltzman,
Yes.
Director Spearing, Director Spearing,
Yes.
Director Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. So that brings us to item 5-5.1, the marketing and communications plan and advertising contract. Mr. Paget.
Thank you. For this first item, I would like to introduce Priscilla Collegdon, our communications officer, who will provide us with an update on recent marketing activities and also request authorization for a related contract for the coming year. Obviously, we're ready to go now. We're not exactly post-COVID, but we are excited to start more aggressively marketing our service. We want people who have made changes in their travel patterns over the last couple of years to know that we're out there and encourage them to drive, certainly rather than use other means to get to work or other activities. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Priscilla, who will take this presentation.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, we definitely want people to come back to the train or welcome them onto the train. So that's all about what we are doing for FY23. Thank you for having me here today. Next slide, please. As Rob mentioned, I wanted to go do a recap a little bit about what we've done during FY22, which is our changing scenario this past year, given that we had messaging that we still had to put out regarding health and safety. So we did really emphasize a lot of that because of Omicron, as well as changing status of COVID during FY22. But we also focused heavily on a leisure message. That was to encourage families and individuals to ride as they began to do more out-of-home activities and got to be more comfortable. Our weekend and leisure market is becoming more important for us than it has in the past, as shown by much of the strong ridership that we had for 49ers games last season and consistent weekend ridership during the year. And you'll see later on in our presentation today that we will show some of the shifts happening with our riders' travel habits and a general outlook on travel. So we also celebrate our 30th anniversary with a 30% off discount, which we have run for several months and has performed very well for us. So we know that having something out in the market that appeals to people is important to them, especially with rising gas prices and other costs on the rise too. One thing that we did this year to really just measure our effectiveness is we completed a social media assessment. And from that, we developed a new content strategy, which we've started using just the last couple of months. Next slide, please. Great. As you can see, here's an example of one of our 30th anniversary graphics. Our media mix for the past year for FY22 utilized many digital channels, including Google paid search, digital out-of-home billboards that you might have seen, as well as Facebook and Instagram ads and other types of retargeting that you might see when you are on the internet. Our communications and emails, and we kept our riders informed of some of the changes along the way this year with our emails and blog posts. And we also worked closely with Amtrak Social Care to deliver service alerts to our riders and made sure that they were on top of that. We did also do some continued promotion of the cafe car service, which everybody was happy to have back, and introduce some new items as well as some old favorites, just like the Cheerios. Next slide, please. And a little bit more about the social media assessment that we did. And this is to evaluate the types of content that we put out on our social media channels, which we were pretty overdue for doing something like this, to really look at what strategy we wanted to put in place. And the assessment really allowed us to develop a strategy that will deliver content that appeals to our followers. And it really measured which ones were most engaging for people and which really grabbed their attention, so that we can build upon that. And one of the key things that we learned is just how powerful and important it is to have motion graphics and video as part of the content that we put out on our social channels. So we will be emphasizing a lot more of that in the coming year in order to capture people's attention. And we're also going to start working with some influencers to highlight specific itineraries and destinations on our route, to give people ideas of where to go on our service. Next slide, please. So for this coming year's communications and marketing plan, for advertising, this year's proposed plan allows for a significant amount of additional advertising in the mix. It'll be a combination of our continuous paid media throughout the year, as well as hopefully longer or more visible durations of campaigns, or added campaign flights potentially. With ridership, still not where we'd like it to be, we really need to be aggressive in pursuing new riders, and advertising is one way that we can capture new audiences. And I mentioned social media video and really arresting images have become really critical to grab attention. So a big component of the content strategy will be acquiring and posting more video, even if they're just very short ones, to help raise our visibility. I have also been working with Caltrans on a market segmentation study and this is for the whole state, which is identifying prospective customers and markets. Hopefully, once it's finalized, we'll be able to leverage that in what we do with our plan and how we change it during the year. Many of our partnerships have also been on pause the past 2 years because people were just doing different things, obviously, and being home, and things were shut down. But now things are coming back, so we'll be renewing or seeking out some new promotional opportunities this year. As well, we'll be creating some more attention-getting fare offers, especially for later this summer, and see how they perform so we can do new ones during the year, mostly to capture leisure riders, as that really appears to be a solid area of growth for us. Additionally, we'll be working on options for our more frequent riders, especially as we learn about more optimal fares for our markets, which you'll hear about a little bit more later. And as for PR, we're also looking at the potential of engaging a PR firm to help some of our PR initiatives and raising the visibility of many of the very interesting projects that we're doing here at Capital Corridor. Next slide. All right, so that concludes my presentation today. This is item 5.1 for the Marketing Communications Plan and Advertising Agreement. Though I'm seeking board authorization for $900,000. This is a contingent upon whether or not we do the free fares program that's been proposed by Governor Newsom. If that does not go through, then this authorization would be for $800,000, as that's outlined in the resolution today. And these funds will cover advertising support services for FY23. And with that, I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. We appreciate your presentation. We have several board members with questions, and we will have public comment before we take action. So our first, I think Director Jane, your hand was raised first. So do you have a question?
Yes. Thank you, Priscilla. I have a couple of questions. I think you said, I'm from Santa Clara, I think you said that there's strong ridership for 49er games. And I wanted to understand how you coordinate with the 49ers and the stadiums, Oakland and Santa Clara. Are there extra trains that are run to coordinate with the end of events? And then do sometimes the venues provide some sort of promotional, maybe a $5 discount or something like that for people that take the train? So that's really my first question. And then the second is that I ride often with my bike, and sometimes it's confusing to new riders what to do with your bike and how to, put it in the racks. Do you have videos that you create, or here's a video of how you take your bike on the train? Thank you.
Great. To answer your question about the bikes, we actually are revising some of our bicycle policy information just to make it more clear for people as to where and what kinds of bikes people can bring on board. So that's still in the works. And yes, we have done some videos on how to use the bike lockers. I think that we are overdue to do a new video on how to use the racks and the storage areas on board, though. So that will be one of the things that we plan to do in the near future for our video content. Thank you for the reminder to do that. To answer your question about how we work with the different venues, with Santa Clara, with Levi Stadium, we coordinate with their operations team, and in order to serve the different events, we basically look at our schedule to see if our regular schedule will serve the events well. And if it does, then we will usually add on extra cars to accommodate busier events. If it's something where there's a later departure in the evening that might be needed, we're sometimes able to adjust the schedule. And again, we look at that and evaluate what the anticipated attendance might be at that event before we decide to do it, and how we think that audience and that for that venue, that event might want to take the train. So what the demand might be. Sometimes we're able to work well with the promoters, but since we've been in a COVID pause, basically, we've kind of lost some of those relationships. So we're looking to rebuild some of our relationships with, for example, Live Nation and others. But we do have a good relationship with the 49ers for those events. With regard to the Coliseum, we had a longstanding partnership to promote a ridership to the A's games, and things have been a little bit different this year just because the ridership or the attendance at their games is much lower than in the past. So it's something we have to consider as to whether or not we invest in things. So we have to look at a big picture for all of those things. But we do have lots of events and fans who still travel to the games and other events via our train. I hope that answers your question.
I was asking is, it's difficult to change a current schedule because you throw some people off. But would you add a train to coincide with a big event like a 49er game?
There are times that we can add a train, but it's not always possible depending upon our equipment availability and also the slot availability in the schedule as well. There's a number of considerations.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, Priscilla. One of the realities is because the right-of-way is owned by Union Pacific, we are required to get approval for any what's called a special train. And we do, one of the things that helps is when an event is planned well in advance, then we are able to work through the process. When an event is not planned well in advance, it's harder to do it. They generally do work pretty well with us on adding trains, but as Priscilla said, sometimes we are not able to get approval on that, but we do our best certainly to support some of those large scale events.
There's also a cost to adding the trains as well,
right.
Sometimes.
But you said that ridership was really good for 49er games.
Yes.
So my question is, Elton John is playing in October, so you have plenty of notice. there's 2 concerts. So will you be doing anything to coordinate with the Elton John?
We're currently in discussions on that right now, looking at the whole schedule to see if we can serve those.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Director Jane. Director Dowden Cavillo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation, Priscilla. Just a couple of things. I know I'm just an alternate, so I don't participate in these meetings on a regular basis, but I just wondered, when you talk about advertising in your market, one thing I myself, I'm vice mayor for the city of Auburn here in Placer County, by the way. I haven't seen a lot of that advertising. I do have a presence on social media, but I haven't seen very much myself. So I don't know if you're saturating the market down in the Bay Area or if you're, Sacramento, but I just really haven't seen very much. And I would really encourage, when we talk about leisure riders, which I think is fantastic. I myself, my family, we've taken the train down to San Francisco, and it's been a great way to get down there without having to deal with traffic or parking. But, we are the end of the line here in Auburn, but, we are this destination for athletic and outdoor activities in Placer County in general. And it would be great to really, have some little point of reference on that as well in your advertising campaigns. I mean, we've got the American River Canyon, and people are coming up here to the foothills. I mean, I know they are. I know, our businesses, our restaurants are having these people, this infiltration of folks from the Bay Area. And what a great thing is to encourage them to come on the train. I love the idea. One of the directors talked about doing another educational video about bikes, because people come up and they ride their mountain bikes on our trails and so forth. And so having that additional education would be great. But I'd really like to see, again, I understand the market, the mass, everything is down there in the Bay, but don't forget about us up here in Placer County, especially with those leisure riders, because there is so much to do. And we do attract a lot of folks from the Bay, and how easy for them to bring right up the train, get on their bike and to enjoy. So just wanted to put in those 2 cents because I haven't noticed a lot in the market up here for that advertising. And lastly, I mean, we also have a lot of folks that take the train down to the city for work as well. I've noticed an increase just in talking with folks in my constituency, and Bruce may be able to say the same for Roseville. So I just please don't forget about us up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, we have not forgotten about you up there. We actually worked very closely with Placer County Transportation Planning Agency on a number of projects. And one of the things that we've done this year is highlight, we've done a video to highlight some of the destinations up in that area. So we'll be putting that out on social media and boosting it with some funds so that more eyeballs see it. And as well, some of it's constrained by the fact that we have only one frequency in one direction going, up there. The schedule doesn't really work for us to send people up there unless they're going for an overnight or for the whole weekend, which we want to encourage people to do. But in some ways, our schedule is a little bit constrained in terms of the emphasis we can put up there. But we definitely know that there's so much rich activity going on up there that people would be really interested in knowing about. So we do want to promote that.
And if only we could add more trains going that direction.
I know we're working on that 3rd track, so I'm fully supportive. Lastly, I was just going to suggest to you perhaps that, when you get ready to release those videos on social media, I think it would be advantageous to make sure that each director gets a link to that, because we can also share it on our respective, I'm sure that all of us have our unofficial, the electeds have an official Facebook page or Instagram or what have you, and we can help to facilitate that distribution of that as well. So, and again, I'm an alternate, but I would absolutely love to get a link when you're going to, download the video or what have you, so that I can share that and help to promote it. So utilize us to help get the message out as well.
Very good.
Great, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Hadeshelt has a hand up.
My God, Vice Mayor Dowden Caballero must have been reading my mind. That's everything I was going to say. So if you could just, I know, and I thought Auburn was, prominently featured in that video. So if you could send that around, we'll get it out, right? Because I love the fact that, you're targeting leisure travel. So thank you, Vice Mayor, for reading my mind.
Very good. Very good. A new skill set being displayed. That's very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions from board members? And then we have a public comment request. I don't see any other board member, any other director, so we'll go to public comment before we take action. And we have one request for comment from Mike Barnbaum. Mike, are you able to speak?
Please go ahead.
Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay, yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Director Jane from Santa Clara County with his questions and comments. I wanted to speak more to the expansion of service when that topic comes up in more detail in the managing director's report. But on this item, I want to speak to you all as an influencer. And thank you, Priscilla, for the presentation. After a couple of years of being cooped up, cardboard cutouts being the only thing at stadiums and arenas, I have come back out and am frequently riding the Capitol Corridor, mostly between the city pairs of downtown Sacramento Valley Station and the Oakland Coliseum. The Oakland A's Investment Group Limited Liability Corporation have put together flex plans where attendees can attend a minimum of 20 games in a season and have the flexibility to pick their games as it sees fit in their schedule. With the newly expanded pass expanding from 45 days to 60 days, it gives people the flexibility to use their rides during a span of period when they can pick home games and use up all of their rides in a very thoughtful and fruitful manner. It's so great to be back on the train, and I'm looking forward to the stadium's new location as it would expand service to the San Joaquins, more Capitol Corridor service, and Amtrak long distance service in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Amazing. Just exactly on 2 minutes time. I'm dazzled, and good comments. We appreciate it. Are there any other public comment requests?
If they're not, Mr. Chairman, and you're ready for a motion, I'll move approval.
Second.
So that was a motion from Howdeshelt and a second by Rayburn. Oh, is that Howdeshelt or Spearing? I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's Howdeshelt.
Okay, very good. Very good. Please call roll.
Chair Saylor,
Aye.
Director Duffy,
Aye.
Director Frerick,
Aye.
Director Howdeshelt,
Aye.
Director Jane,
Yes.
Director McPartland,
Aye.
Director Price, Director Price.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Saltzman,
Yes.
Director Spearing,
Yes.
Director Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Very good. And thank you. That brings us to item 2, authorize funding for a fair analysis study.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to introduce Jim Allison, our Director of Planning. And as you know, we have been incredibly constrained by the limits of the Amtrak ticketing system. Our hope is that with the CALA-TP project, we'll be able to transition to a much more innovative and flexible ticketing approach. And we already talked about that a little bit this morning. But what we want to do with this initial effort is open our minds to the possibilities of what we might be able to accomplish. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who will provide an overview of this project.
Great. Thank you very much, Rob. I am very excited to present this to you. Typically, we would have had items like this maybe be on the consent calendar, but we do want to draw special attention to the opportunity here to look at our fares that we charge and the fare products that we charge. We are at the opportunity with the CalITP program using the open loop system, as Rob mentioned, to transition away from the Amtrak products that we've had for years and years. I've attended prior board meetings and we've all felt those constraints over time that we couldn't mesh with transit partners very easily, and that some of the opportunities with the different Connect card in Sacramento and the Clipper card, when those technologies were coming out, we couldn't align with them. Now we have the chance to leapfrog past the closed loop technologies into open loop, which is a payment system with your credit cards or your credit cards as, or not credit cards, but cash-based conversion cards, which Rob mentioned before, or your smartphone. So there's many technology options to move payment to this open loop system. This not only builds on equity, it can change also some of the programs that we offer discounts to different populations working with the bigger statewide effort in California. So I'll talk about those a little bit. First off, one of the products that we have is the monthly ticket. It was, especially pre-pandemic, a very popular ticket to purchase. I was one of the purchasers, but it's awfully hard perhaps for some folks at the beginning of the month to put out that much cash to purchase the ticket. So that is a barrier to folks getting the best discount on the train. With this opportunity, one example is that we can go with a fare capping where you pay your way towards that monthly cap, but on a gradual basis, not all at once at the beginning of the month. So that's just one example of the things that are available to us now. One of the things that we also want to understand with the study is how our trip purposes are changing with the pandemic. Priscilla talked a little bit about this in her presentation. It's very, very important right in front of us that leisure is now taking up a bigger slice of the pie than ever has before. So we're really having to shift and look at our fare products that deal with that. The cost of fare collection is also significantly cheaper under this method. So we want to look at the opportunities to match the next bullet point you see there, where an initial study we had was that the fares, especially the single ride fares, were oftentimes too high, and certainly too high for families to take, as each one needed to buy a single ride fare if they were going for an event. So all of these opportunities are before us, and they help us get into the realm of more customized, focused ticketing. So the item before you today is to request authorization for up to $200,000 in CCJPA operating funds to fund this fare and fare product analysis. If I can go to the next slide. I want to just give you some examples. We have opportunities with our on-call consultants to do this. We've approached 2 of them that were interested, and they've responded with proposals. We do have one selected at this point in time. What you see on this slide here are just some examples of what we might be able to study. Some of the things that we can look at. We can look at the impact of lower fares and see what that price point might need to be and develop business rule sets around those pricing approaches. The other element that we can look at with fares is to utilize some of the growth in what CalITP is doing at the statewide level to bring eligibility for discounts into a unified realm. And so what do I mean by that? Well, if you're above a certain age, you can get a senior discount. When they did a survey of all the different senior discounts offered across the state of California, they ranged from 55 to 80. And there were 55 different delineations of what a senior was. So the senior approach that the state can take is use the DMV as a universal means of querying age-based discounts. That's just one example. The DMV is a database that can be queried to provide discounts. So can student rolls or veterans programs or housing assistance. These are all things that are being discussed at the state level and worked on through the Cal ITP program. So we can incorporate those discount programs along with the already improved discount program for what I talked about before with fare capping. Then finally, that leads us into the fare products. Weekly and or monthly fare capping can be proposed and studied. The use of small group ticketing and family bundling is also an opportunity. And then finally, peak and off-peak pricing would be an opportunity also under this. So all of these are just examples of things that could be studied by this program. So I'll submit to you the request is for up to $200,000 in capital corridor operating funds to support this study. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Exciting work. And we have now opportunity for board member questions, and then we'll turn to public comment. Mr. Director Jane, you have your hand up first, and then we have a couple others. So Director Jane.
Yeah, thank you. I really like the idea of fare capping. It really does provide a way to get the monthly pass for low-income people. I like the idea of, people make this calculation. Is it cheaper for me to drive or is it cheaper for me to take the train? And so when you have more people, then it's cheaper to drive because you're just adding a person to the car. So I like the idea of small groupings or family groupings where you get discounted tickets as you add riders to compete with driving. Thank you.
Very good comments. Thank you. Director Dowden-Cavillo.
Yes, thank you very much. I too really appreciate the opportunity to take a look at the family bundling and the small group bundling. I think that totally makes sense. Overall, I'm incredibly supportive of taking a look at the fares. Capital Corridor has been around for a very long time, and I know the fare structure has been pretty much the same. There's some subsidizing for government workers at the state and federal level, of course. But very excited to see where this will take us and what kind of opportunities we can have to lower some of our fares and to make it more economically feasible, especially for our socioeconomically disadvantaged folks, to take the train and to visit more, of the area within the Capital Corridor's jurisdiction. So thank you very much. Looking forward to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Spearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope we can separate the various types of riders that we have. You've got the business traveler, you've got the casual, senior rider, you've got the commuter, and you've got groups. And it would be good if we could get some data on what those thresholds are for those various groups. I think that one size does not fit all, and I think the more variation we have, I think we'll certainly pick up more ridership. But I think with these new riders today, I think we have to start looking at what those fare thresholds are to sustain our system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jim. Let's see. I don't see other board members' hands up. Did I miss anybody? Okay. We'll move to public comment before we consider an action. So we have one request that I see for public comment. Director Mike Barnbaum, would you like to comment?
Yes, just a question. Will this no longer allow, or will it continue to allow a rider to pay and earn Amtrak guest reward points for the payment they made for their ticket? Or will it be such that the ways to pay for fares is going to disconnect people from their ability to earn Amtrak guest rewards on the Capital Corridor route in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Jim, did you want to respond to that? I think the study itself may consider that. Is that part of the work? Or do you have a comment?
Yeah, I can comment on it. In general, we may not be able to connect our payment methods with Amtrak guest rewards, but that's not precluded by this. It would take some back of the office work to do that. It would also open up opportunities to have our own rewards program, which is more likely the direction we may go. But really, there's a lot of flexibility on this. I don't know that the study will look at those elements, but it might look at rewards programs in general and then give us some idea. It's going to be at a higher level, not super specific, but giving us some themes to work with and then putting those in order, and then we can work forward from that.
Excellent. So it's yet to be determined. Mr. Spearing, your hand is still up. I don't know if you had it or, okay. Very good. So are there any other members of the public who would like to address us? I don't see anyone.
I'll move the item.
Very good.
Dowden Calvillo, second, please.
Wonderful. So we have a motion by Rayburn, a second by Dowden Calvillo. Would you please call roll?
Chair Saylor,
Aye.
Director Dusty,
Yes.
Director Freerick,
Aye.
Director Haudeshelt,
Yes.
Director Jane,
Yes.
Director McPartlin,
Aye.
Director Price,
Aye.
Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Saltzman, Director Saltzman,
Yes. Yes.
Director Spearing,
Yes.
Director Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Very good. And that brings us to item 5.3, the Solano Rail Hub Draft Project Study Report Update.
I am excited today to bring back a familiar face.
Uh-oh. Let's see. So am I frozen or did Rob freeze there?
Am I back?
Okay.
It was Rob.
Okay, sorry. I'm excited today to. Sorry, I had to do it remotely today, unintentional. I had to by circumstance. I'm excited to introduce Katrina Grigana and David Katrowski, who will provide an overview of the just completed project study report for a station improvement project at Sassoon. And we are thrilled to support our partners as we seek funding opportunities to upgrade some of our stations. I know we're looking at some other stations as well. Very much like Davis, Sassoon offers a real opportunity to improve accessibility and safety at the station. And we, at the staff level, are committed to working with Solano Transportation Authority to move this project forward. So with that, I will introduce our team who will provide the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Good morning, CCJPA Board of Directors. My name is Katrina Grigana, and I am with Solano Transportation Authority. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Solano Rail Hub project. I also have our consultant, Dave Katrowski, who will be presenting with me, and he will be going over the project study report, phase 1. The STA officially designated the Sassoon Fairfield Station as the Solano Hub in January of last year. This mobility hub is identified in the 2018 State Rail Plan that would connect Capital Corridor regional buses in a future smart extension. And over the last year, we have been working closely with the Capital Corridor and our member agencies, which include the cities of Fairfield and Sassoon City and the County of Solano, to move this project forward. And the first step that we took is the development of a Caltrans Division of Rail Project Study Report, or PSR, which would flesh out the design layout of the Solano Rail Hub station and set us up for the design and environmental phases. We would also use this PSR to secure funding for the project. Phase 1 of the PSR effort has concluded, and the report that will be presented to you details the initial findings from that study. The Solano Rail Hub is an important project for Solano County, and we are grateful for the partnership with the Capital Corridor on this effort. We would also like to thank you for the financial resources that you provided for the initial study, and we are excited to give this overview of the PSR phase 1. So now I will hand it off to our consultant, Dave Katrowski, who will be going over the first part of the slides.
Thank you, Katrina. Good morning, Chair Saylor and CCJPA Board Directors. It's a pleasure to be before you once again. I wanted to just, this slide already, Katrina's captured most everything, but what the initial study did that was completed in January 21, it set the path forward for the project study report, the phase 1 that I'll be going over right now. So if we go to the next slide, so the goal was to identify design criteria and some initial concepts, knowing that we would be doing a phase 2 project study report that, as Katrina said, we'll get a lot more detail, but there are 3 main elements to this project study report under phase 1. First was to improve passenger safety by putting in an island grade separated platform so the passengers are not crossing live tracks to board the train or deboard the train. We also wanted to make sure we enhance community access by replacing the current bridge with a crossing that is ADA compliant. And lastly, we want to upgrade the passenger experience, and that would be part of the starting and beginning the 3rd mainline track in this project area as part of the CCJPA's vision implementation plan, which would improve reliability and allow the ability for service expansion for Capital Corridor trains along this route. Then as far as project benefits, the station and platform improvements, as Rob Padgett was talking about, will help improve passenger safety by getting rid of the holdout rule. The holdout rule is a technical term, but it's used by Union Pacific's dispatchers, and where they will hold out a train when a Capital Corridor train is servicing this station. You can see in this picture here on the slide, what happens is when a train comes into the station, if you're not familiar, UP dispatchers stop all train traffic on either side of the station because, once again, passengers are crossing a live track. The center platform and the track improvements will allow trains, instead of holding out of the station, spewing emissions into the region's atmosphere, will allow the trains under the development here to bypass the train while the train is servicing the station, thereby improving air quality in the region as well as reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Another project benefit, I think you're all very familiar with the Link 21 Second Trans-Bay Crossing. There are some initial service planning concepts that are being developed to support the Link 21 program, and each one of these includes the Solano Rail Hub at the Sassoon Fairfield Station. In addition, MTC recently completed their Plan Bay Area 2050 plan, and those long-range employment and housing plans are being developed to incorporate development within about a half-mile radius of this station. We go to the next slide. So this is very simplified concepts for you to look at, and it goes, I need to bring this up again, is that we were very happy to get the input from the CCJPA staff, specifically Jim Allison and Joel Cox were very helpful because, as Rob Padgett said, I know you're doing similar work at the Davis Station project. What they learned in their discussions with Union Pacific, they brought forward to us. So we see that this looks like a very, very basic concept, and it is. But what you don't see is all the work that was done to identify the utilities that were underground, the water table, as well as the piers holding up and supporting the Highway 12 overpass. So I'll go through this really quickly. There's a south platform access concept and a north platform. The pivot for that, whether it's a north or south platform, is location of the platform compared to the yellow rectangle, which is the overpass, the Highway 12 overpass, and those vertical up and down yellow lines are the actual piers. You can probably make out the 3 white lines. You see we're threading a needle though. Those are the 3 tracks that we were talking, that I brought up earlier. And the green rectangle on the south platform at the bottom left is the platform. So you can see that the solid blue lines are the crossing variants. It's either going to be an underpass or overpass, which will be determined in the phase 2 study. And those show the path there. But just as importantly, we wanted to make sure that we had a safe path for the passengers. Those dashed lines are the pedestrian paths to the platform, on the green rectangle, as well as the other dashed lines are showing the connections between the city. If you look at the other slide, the platform moves to the top right portion of the slide. That's the north of the Highway 12 overpass. It's a very similar layout with the blue lines and the blue dash line showing access between the cities as well as access to the platform. We'll go to the next slide. This gives you a profile concept, and this profile concept of the alternatives basically shows the difference between an overcrossing or a bridge on the top half of the slide versus the lower half of the slide, which shows the pedestrian undercrossing or a tunnel. The main difference, as you can see, is a 20-foot high clearance for the bridge, because that is UP double stack train clearance. And then there's only 14-foot clearance for the pedestrian undercrossing, which is in the lower half. And that equates to, using geometry, about a 380-foot walk for passengers using the undercrossing versus a 560-foot walk to access the top of the bridge. And if you were to put this in context of what you know on the Capitol Corridor, the top overcrossing concept would look very similar to what you see at Jock London Square station or the Emeryville station. And the lower one is going to look very similar to the Fairfield Vacaville station, the Richmond station, San Jose Diridon station, and I think that if I didn't say it, the Sacramento station. So, and we'll go to the next slide. And this is where I turn it back to Katrina, and thank you very much.
This slide just shows the review process that the report has been going through. We've done a number of presentations. Our STA board approved the report at our meeting last week. And this is going to be a second to last presentation. Our last one will be with the Cal STA, which will be scheduled next month. Next slide, please. And in terms of next steps, we have sent a letter to the CCJPA requesting the addition of the Solana Rail Hub to your capital improvement program. We are thrilled to hear that the CCJPA plans on continuing to support us with this project, and we would like to formalize the partnership as we move this project forward. We will also be sending a letter to the Cal STA, letting them know that the Sassoon Fairfield Station was officially designated as the Solana Rail Hub to formalize the designation with the state. We are looking to kick off phase 2 of the PSR development in the next few months, which will build off phase 1 to explore further project options. We will be working with Cal STA on this effort, who is providing us with technical assistance for this next study. And of course, CCJPA will continue to be a partner on this work as well. And lastly, we will start to look for and pursue funding opportunities for this project. Next slide, please. And again, just wanted to thank the CCJPA for the partnership, and we look forward to continuing to work with you to move the Solana Rail Hub project forward. With that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. We have one hand up. This is a time for, now this I think is, this is not for action today, but just for discussion, for information that the project is moving forward. Is that accurate, Rob? You're not asking for an action from the board?
That's correct.
Okay. We have two hands up, so we'll start with Director Jane.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you have any rough estimates of the cost difference between a tunnel versus a bridge? And then the second question is, I hear on the Caltrain, there are some tunnels that go under some stations, which late at night, like 1 a.m., it's pretty scary to be in those tunnels. So what kinds of security measures do you put in there? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will let Dave take that question.
Yeah, so can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. We've done some very initial cost estimates, and as we know, we haven't really entered into design yet, but we know the cost of materials and inflationary factors are driving up the cost as we speak right now. But it's approximately $85 million for the overcrossing and about 150 million, maybe a little bit more for the undercrossing. The undercrossing costs more because of the utilities that are in the right of way and the design to avoid or encapsulate those utilities. So there's a lot more earthwork when you go under versus over.
Okay, very good. How about the security question that was also asked? The safety and security.
Yeah, I can say we haven't gotten into any significant design, but those concerns have been brought up by the project team members as well, and we will be very studious in trying to determine a safe and secure access for under either of those crossing alternatives.
Very good. Director Rayburn and followed by Director McPartland.
Thank you, Chair Saylor. I have several questions and a comment. I'll just list out my questions. One is the plan to create a staff station, and that, of course, would help address security. The other question is, who owns the land in the parcel to the northwest of the tracks? And the third is really, is the tunnel feasible given the water table in the area both today and in the future? And I'm also just want to comment that I feel that we need to make sure we're not just designing a gold standard and looking at the Fairfield Vacaville station. We have an incredible set of stairways that it's unimaginable that they will ever be utilized in any way to capacity. So I urge that we design prudently. That's.
Okay. That was your comment.
Questions?
Yeah, any response to the questions, please?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Katrina, I would like to jump in on this question here, and I'm going to talk more about the funding opportunities here. One of the big things in the IIJA was funding for Amtrak to take care of the last of its ADA issues at stations. And this station is on the list of stations that still have significant issues, as is Davis. And so what we are doing now is connecting STA with Amtrak to make sure that we're all working towards the same ends. Certainly hear you on the cost side of things. I would say in both this case and in Davis, the safety improvements and the holdout rule improvements are going to benefit the freight network as well. And so this is one of these projects where we absolutely want to engineer stuff in a way that's efficient. The flip side of the benefits is this is one of those stations where I think we're going to feel the reliability improvements significantly and the environmental benefits as well, given the lack of idling trains and those long freight trains have to start and stop. That's certainly not good for emissions. So lots of positives on this project. So we'll look forward to working closely, and we're going to dedicate staff time to this too. We've already done that, and we'll continue to do that as STA moves forward on the project.
Okay, very good. I think we have Mr. McPartland.
Thank you. Could I get you to go back to slide 17, please? There you go. Yep, that was it. Next one. And looking at that, I see that there is a 5% grade, and with constituents and family members that have mobility problems, that's kind of steep. And I realize that this is just in the conceptual stages, but I would think that if you ended up having somewhat of a shallow trench, you could reduce that grade to possibly 2.5%. That might be helpful as far as mobility and safety of the patrons. Just a concept. I'm not an architect or an engineer, but I just like to have that explored as a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Then that will be, as you said, as a concept. So as we go into phase 2 of the project study report, and as Katrina said, we have funding for it, and Caltrans has the resources to support us. So these are great comments will be pulled right in, including Director Rayburn's comments will be pulled into the scope.
Very good. Are there other comments from directors? I don't see any. We do have 2 requests for public comment. Mr. Barnbaum, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes. Good morning again, Mike Barnbaum, Sacramento. I know that in your presentation, you talked about greater safety and greater accessibility for the Solano Rail Hub. I didn't hear a whole lot discussed about connectivity. I get rider complaints from riders that mention there's very limited connectivity on Saturday between Capitol Corridor and local transit providers at this location. And there is no connectivity between Capitol Corridor trains and local transit providers on Sundays at this location, as well as holidays. Does the Solano Rail Hub study take a look extensively at connectivity and improving the connectivity experience on Saturday, Sunday, holidays, as well as nights and evenings? And to Rob's point that he was addressing about ADA accessibility, I know there's a lot of construction activity on that topic still ongoing at the Coliseum station. Lots of us don't know when that's going to be finished, and neither do the conductors when we ask them. Can you provide, Rob, a quick update on when that project is expected to be finished at the Coliseum station to improve ADA accessibility over there? Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Mike, and I think we'll let Rob respond to you directly on those questions. And now we'll go to Mr. Doug Kerr. Doug Kerr, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention, it's sort of in the weeds detail, but it's rather important for design work. There was mention of bringing SMART into the Sassoon station, and remains to be seen if this is ever going to happen in any of our lifetimes. But SMART uses high-level platforms, and Capitol Corridor uses low-level platforms, and there's a problem with freight train interference on high-level platforms. And so the basic design should not preclude SMART from ever getting in there because of platform height issues. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kerr. All right, I don't see any other public comments. This item is for information, and I think we've had some good comments. Is there anything else from any of the directors? All right. Thank you, Mr. Katrowski. Thank you to our friends at Solano Transportation Agency. And we'll move now to item 4, which is the capital projects update.
Thank you, and thanks to our guests for the last presentation. Appreciate your time today. For a capital projects update, we often come to you with an update on large projects, Link 21, South Bay Connect, Sac Roseville. But what we're coming to you today with is an example of the kind of project that we are working on in partnership with Union Pacific, and these are equally important to the reliability of our service. And I'm going to turn it over to Joel Cox. We haven't seen Joel in a while. He's been quietly running lots and lots of projects, but we're excited to bring him up today to talk about 2 projects that are moving forward as we speak. So with that, I will turn it over to Joel.
Thank you, Rob, and Chair and members of the board. I want to talk to you today about a couple of projects. The first one is a crossover and signal replacement project at Steej. Steej is a location on the railroad between Richmond and Berkeley stations. And the project here is to replace the crossovers, the track crossovers, so that trains that are making a diverging move will be able to move at higher speeds, and also to replace the aging signal system at this location for greater reliability. At this point in time, the project is, parts of it are still being worked out for the track work, but the pre-wired signal cabin for the project has been delivered and is waiting to be installed soon. So we expect the remainder of the project construction to be completed over the next year. Next slide, please. Up at Davis, we have the Davis crossover and signal project, a similar type situation where we will be upgrading the existing crossovers for higher train speeds and replacing the rather antiquated signal system that dates from the 1930s. The first phase of construction of this project has begun. You can see in this photo work by the City of Davis to improve 2nd Street, where it is adjacent to the railroad tracks, to provide better support for those tracks when they are rebuilt with the new crossovers. We expect the remainder of the track work and signal replacement to occur in the next calendar year, 2023. Next slide. The crossover and signal project is stands on its own in an important way, but it also is a key that unlocks this future project, which is to replace the boarding platforms at the Davis station with a new single center island platform with grade-separated pedestrian access. The purpose of this is to improve passenger safety and ADA access, and also train operations in the Davis area. This project is in the early design stage. The design is being led by Amtrak with assistance from CCJPA and the City of Davis, and has achieved really good input from the Union Pacific, really good engagement from them. They're excited about it because of the improvement to safety and train operations. The next stage of this project will be a community involvement process to seek buy-in from the community, and we expect design to be complete in 2025. Thank you.
And I'll add, and thanks, Joel, for the presentation. We'll be happy to take questions. And I'll add that one of the things that we're going to do in the coming months and years is brag about stuff we're up to. So if you get a call from us and say, hey, we're going to do an event on your platform, and please join us, because I think it's important, especially with all the support at the state level and the federal level, to show everyone that we're actually doing something with all this funding. So keep your eyes out and your emails open for some invitations.
Very good. Very, very exciting stuff. We have two board members with their hands up for the Director Jane. Do you have a comment on this information item?
Yeah, I grew up in Davis, and the train horns are crazy loud. I mean, even far away. It really prevents TOD development near the train station. And since the signal system dates to the 1930s, when we upgrade it, is there a way to reduce the number of horns or the duration of horns that would be at the Davis station due to signal upgrades? And then is the grade separation being considered? Is it an overcrossing or an undercrossing?
Joel, can you take those questions?
Yes, so the train uses their horn for multiple different reasons. One reason is if it's approaching a grade crossing where people or vehicles might be crossing the tracks. And so this project will reduce the number of grade crossings because it will be a grade separated crossing to the pedestrian boarding platform, and therefore will reduce that reason for the train horns. Train horns are also used if there's anybody that's near the tracks that might need to be warned of the approaching train. And so that still could happen if people are not careful about where they stand on the boarding platform. And the final reason is that when a train is getting ready to depart the station, they are required to sound the horn before they start moving. So that won't change with this project.
But
So all of these are...
Can't we use wayside horns, quieter wayside horns?
So wayside horns would apply to a grade crossing where you have vehicles interacting with the trains, and none of those exist at the boarding platform. There is one to the west of the station, which is not affected by this project and would remain. A wayside horn could be implemented there if someone chose to do so. Anyway, the changes that I've been describing here are all associated with the reconstruction of the boarding platform. The signal system work won't really change any of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, this project has lots of positives. So one is absolutely the fact that this no longer is a crossing. The second is that we do not have, freight trains do not have to stop and wait to pass through the station if we have a center island platform. And the third is that we reconnect that community in Davis. And that, and I was not here when that happened. I know it was a really contentious issue. And if you look at a lot of the funding programs that are being pushed by IIJ and even other programs, reconnecting communities that have been separated by transportation projects is a core goal. And there's no doubt this project is going to fall into that category. So lots of positives here, and we're excited about engaging with the city of Davis on the project.
Very good, thank you. Director Howdeshelt and then Director Spearing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Rob, thanks. I love your celebrating idea, so please reach out. I had someone from the Alameda-based company, Penumbra, who located in Roseville. They're a medical device company. They were located in Roseville a couple of years ago. Reach out and want to be supportive because he's often a rider on the Capitol Corridor. And of course, you know, we have Airport Appliance that just recently located. So let us know, connect with us, connect with Supervisor Holmes, Vice Mayor Caviato, and, you know, and our staff, and we'll promote the hell out of it and get you a large, so thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Director Spearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I just want to thank staff for these projects. You know, these projects show that the Capitol Corridor is not stagnant. That, you know, we're really planning for the future and the future riders. I just wish our fare collection could keep up with that sort of modernization, you know, because I really think that we're still in the 19th century how we're collecting fares. But you know, these projects are extremely important to project, you know, the image of the Capitol Corridor, that we're taking passenger safety, passenger convenience, all of those things that people are looking for this next generation. So I just want to commend staff, you know, keep moving these types of projects forward. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. This is information item. I don't see any other board members with comments. And I don't see any public comment requests. Are we ready to move to the next item? To item 5?
Yep, ready to go. And this, we do not have an action today, so this will again just be an information item for legislative. We are continuing to keep our eyes on, and I know all of you are as well, on the state budget talks, and we should hear something within the next couple weeks about the specifics of that. But we are certainly enthusiastic about the funding that is proposed for transportation, and we'll keep you updated as those things change in the coming weeks. We are listening to hear if Governor Newsom's free fares proposal happens. At this point, doesn't seem likely, but we'll see what comes in the final package as those are negotiated. I did want to mention on the federal side a couple of things. We had a little bit of good news and a little bit of not as good a news, but I'm not going to say bad news because it wasn't bad news. On the good news front, ACTC, Alameda County Transportation Commission, was successful after a couple of attempts at getting federal funding, $25 million in federal funding towards a $75 million program. And you can see on this graphic here, the grade crossings that will benefit from this program, which are in many cases, places where we have trouble. And this is going to be an on-the-ground investment by the federal government that will benefit the safety of our corridor. It will improve the reliability of our service. And so we really appreciate ACTC's commitment to this issue and their efforts to support this and hopefully more of this to come. This was the old Christie program, and so the funding on this was limited. We took a shot with the Sac Roseville third track project. We sought out $30 million for that project. We were not successful in that. We did have a debrief from FRA, those involved in the selection process, and the simple summary of why we were not successful is that the program received about $1.1 billion in requests for funding, and they had $360 odd million available. They will come out with another program in probably the September-August timeframe, and this is the new IIJA money. So this will actually be the plussed up dollars that we're all looking forward to for the first time. And that will be in excess of $1 billion available in a single year. So we very much expect to be competitive in that, and we'll certainly submit an application for that program in the coming year. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we were included, Senator Padilla included our $6 million project for the Agnes siding project, the Santa Clara siding project, which would, we talked earlier about the 49ers games and other events down there, would make it much easier for us to tuck a train away and serve those special events. It would also improve the reliability of our service south of Oakland. That may be included in the FY23 appropriations. We're hopeful that it does get included in the final bill, which give us the $6 million. One of the reasons that that's great is because applying for a discretionary grant program takes a lot of time and effort. And if you can get an earmark for a small dollar project like that, that's certainly a very good way to go. You can go to the next slide, please. Also want to mention that we were super excited to bring, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of my emails about this, but we were super excited to bring a Meet Bose out to California. We started off down in Oakland. We met at the BART offices with the BART general manager and deputy general manager, and we talked about Link 21. And in the picture here, you can see a Meet Bose with Kristen Ferreter, who was staffing him on that project. She and I had an opportunity to work together at the Northeast Corridor Commission, so we're in a small world of rail here. We then headed up to Sacramento and talked a lot about all the projects that we're working on here in California. And I will say from that experience that it is absolutely worth our time to invite people out to California. It's worth your time when you're in Washington, D.C. to tell them what you're up to. Rail is different in California. We've been relying almost entirely on state dollars for the past 2 decades. And despite relying on state dollars, the Capital Corridor Board leadership, and some of you have been on it for that time, has set an example for what can happen outside the Northeast Corridor. And I personally believe that it is the reason why we saw such a great funding package come through, is that we showed Congress and other states what can happen. And so as this funding is now available, we're going to continue to do our outreach to FRA administrator, other senior staff at USDOT, and certainly on the Hill to make sure that they're aware of all the opportunities they have to invest in our service. And with that, I'll pause and take any questions on the legislative front.
Thank you. I see Director Spearing's hand is up. Is that intentional? No. Okay. Are there any questions from members of the board? Director Dowden Calvillo?
Yes, not really a question, just a comment that I really do echo Rob's comments with regards to getting folks out here to California to take a look at what we can offer. It's incredibly important. It's important for us to have a presence in Washington as well. Having worked directly for a California governor in the governor's office, just having that opportunity to bring folks out has been so instrumental. So bravo. And I hope that we can continue to have that open relationship and encourage them to come out and take a look at what we can do and have that open dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Dowden Calvillo. Yes, as it turns out, Mr. Bose's visit happened at the same time several of us were in DC looking for him. so we missed his trip here. Director Howdeshell.
Yeah, not only am I, is the vice mayor reading my mind, but the chair. That's why I was going to mention that we had an opportunity to meet with the Federal Railroad Administration on the third track while we were there. So that's it.
Yeah, it was good to give them double barrels on this one, I think. So we'll keep going. Anything further, Rob?
No, that's it.
Okay, we'll go to the managing director's report, and usually I think you cover items 6 and 7.
As part of that, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so today I'm gonna go through the service performance, talk about our strategy on right-of-way. We're doing some interesting stuff there. Give you a quick overview of our office survey. We've been doing the survey periodically. And then I do want to talk about a service update here. The one thing I do want to mention too is regarding the CEQA lawsuit, we do not have anything that has changed in that would trigger a special session or a closed session. And I will keep you updated. There's a hearing in August on that, but it's moving forward. And if we need to, we will call you back for a meeting on that. Can you go to the next slide, please? So we're throwing out a new graphic today. So this is a summary of where we are on ridership. The blue line at the top, the thick line at the top is 2019. So you can see how we're tracking here. We're continuing a slow and steady upward trend on ridership. And we are hoping to move that forward more as we come in the next couple of weeks. You can go to the next slide, please. In terms of overall statistics on where we are, and this covers the period beginning October 1st, which is the federal fiscal year, through April, we have, we're continuing to carry fewer riders certainly than 2019, but close to business plan. We're about 5% below where we thought we were going to be on business plan. A lot of that's, as you all know, the lingering challenges with COVID are putting a damper on our service. Revenue-wise, we've collected $9 million, which compares to $9.8 million in our forecast for the business plan. Our on-time performance, as you know, we've struggled with that this year due to lots of different issues. The shipping channel's been a challenge. We did have a bunch of track work underway, which unfortunately, the good side of that is you get reliability out of it. The bad side is sometimes you have some delays. That's gotten a little bit better in the last month, so my hope here is we're going to pull that up through the rest of the year. And then our operating ratio, we're at 31%. We're supposed to be at 50%. I think as we're working with the state over the recovery period on the next couple of months, we're going to keep an eye on that and bring that number up. Can you go to the next slide? So first, just to start with, we always show this slide to give you a summary of where we are on this super challenging issue. We have had some fatalities already the current fiscal year, but we're doing everything we can here. And I'm going to talk about another program. If you can go to the next slide. We put a GoPro camera on the front of our train, and we filmed the corridor from Oakland down to San Jose, and we've mapped out where all the fencing is on the corridor. And this is a pretty basic exercise. We don't own the right of way. We have partnered with UP on our fencing project over the last couple of years. But with this new IIJ funding available for to target trespasser issues and grade crossing issues, we are going to look for opportunities to package some of this and do some bigger stuff. Right now, we see about 14 miles potential for new fencing in this territory, but we're going to do this kind of effort. So you approved the 2 patrol officers that we're working with UP to fund. We did that several months ago. We've been funding over the last several years this vegetation removal and fencing and encampment cleanout program. We're going to now look for opportunities to provide fencing in places where we're having people cross. We're going to continue to do everything in our power, and then we're going to work with partners like ACTC, Yolo County, other places that are looking for improvements to grade crossings, and provide all the technical assistance we can and help you with grants. So if you're working on stuff, know that my team, we're small and nimble, but we're ready to help as much as possible. Go to the next slide, please. And I want to talk a little bit about, and thanks to Priscilla and her team for doing this survey. We're keeping an eye, like many agencies, on what's happening out there and what might happen with in particular with our office workers. If you can go to the next slide, please. We had a good response in 2021, had a good response in 2022. These are not huge numbers, but they do give you a good snapshot as to what people are thinking about in terms of returning to the office. You go to the next slide. So in this summary here, you can see those who are planning to come back to the office more frequently. How many of those are thinking in a month or 2? How many are thinking 3-4 months? How many do not plan to return to the office? And then those that are not sure. And what we see from 2021 to 2022 is more people are not planning to return to the office, and fewer people are kind of looking in that 3 to 6 month time horizon. It looks like people either don't know what's going to happen or they're thinking in the next month or 2. Certainly anecdotally, that's what I'm hearing from colleagues, that the plans are to come back here in the near future if they're going to do that, and often in a hybrid situation. Go to the next slide, please. And then we asked, if you're going to ride more, what are you going to do, and why are you going to do that? And we heard earlier the focus on leisure travel. That is going to be really important when we think about our fares. Obviously, that's a big part of our market. It is just as important to get people on the train for leisure travel as it is to get them on the train for business travel. It has lots of positive benefits for our community, and we're going to certainly target that moving forward. Next slide. And then we asked the question that so many agencies ask. I know BART's been doing this, and others have as well. How often are you planning to come back? And the growth here is in the a few times a year slide response. And that has big implications for how we communicate with our customers. We have a lot of these automated messaging systems that many of our regulars are used to. But this is going to challenge our communications team to how do we get in touch with those who maybe don't ride as often, help them understand our service, how the fares work. We're going to see a large number of occasional riders. And I will say that the real positive I see out of that is that occasional riders provide a lot of political support for our service. They may only ride a few times a year, but they see the value of the service in those few times, and we want to make sure it's a high quality experience. Next slide. And then I want to talk about service levels. I know this is the big question everyone has, is when are we going to go back to full service? Right now, our plan is, right now we're running 12 weekday trains and 14 on weekends. And we're planning to, we're doing that with 7 consists. If we can get an 8th consist, we're going to add a couple more trains this fall on weekdays and likely on weekends. That's what we're currently working on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges in the next slide. But that's our goal, and then our goal is still to go back to what was pre-COVID service in the winter time. So we're not putting a specific date on that here, but we're certainly trying to do that in the winter, in the January timeframe. And in the terms of the schedule change in the fall, one thing that I know Placer County has reached out to us on a few times is we have a super early train, that one train a day that comes out of Auburn. We're working on a slight schedule change to let us have that hour later slot run the train out of Auburn. We've been watching the numbers on that. That is not an easy change to make because it requires some work with UP to get the approval, but know that that's on our list and we're going to try to do that as part of the change in the fall. The next slide, please. And then I always come to you with a summary of kind of where we are in terms of challenges to adding service. And these are in order of what I think the challenges are. The first is equipment availability. There are two things that we're facing there. One is a challenge with some of the truck overhaul work that we're doing in partnership with the San Joaquins are going to do that in partnership with the state. We're having some trouble with some of our contractual stuff with Amtrak on that. And then the second challenge is that we're bringing adventure cars into the San Joaquin service, and then the San Joaquin cars will come over to our service in Losan. There have been some challenges in the contract negotiations with Amtrak as the operator. With that, I won't get into the details today on that, but just understand that one of the really crucial things is that we need more equipment to bring back that service. For those who were not on the board at the beginning of COVID, we made a strategic decision early in COVID because we were bringing on this new venture car equipment. We made a decision to let go of some leased Amtrak equipment, and it saved about $10 million a year across the state to do that. We wanted to make sure our finances were in good shape as we managed the COVID challenges, and so now we're on the back end of that decision. The other is Amtrak workforce availability. What we are hearing from Amtrak, like everywhere, they are challenged with hiring people, but they do think that this fall schedule they can meet with their available workforce. They are training new conductors and engineers, and our goal is to work with them and give them lots of advance notice so that if we add service that they're able to support it. And then lastly, funding resources. Our funding comes from the state. We're working with the other two JPAs in the state to be super careful about how we're managing our dollars. This will depend also in part on how quickly the ridership returns. So we're going to do everything we can to market our service and bring people back, given that historically we've relied on about 50 to 60% of our costs being covered through fares. And I believe that's my last slide. I'll be happy to, I think that's it, correct? Okay, so I'll be happy to take any questions.
Very good. We have Director Jane with a question.
Yeah, I have seen a few reports of trespasser fatalities. And do we have some sort of attribution of the cause of these fatalities? And I'm kind of new to the board. Will the fencing reduce fatalities when they are actually, suicides?
Yeah, there's two, and we are intentionally quiet about that, given research that shows that can have a detrimental effect. There are two reasons for multiple reasons for fatalities. One of those is suicides. There are strategies that are used to reduce suicides, and we do work in partnership with other organizations, including Union Pacific, Amtrak, and Operation Lifesaver. In terms of other fatalities on the corridor that are outside of grade crossings, I think grade crossings are well understood, but outside of grade crossings, the reality is that people do not always judge the distance of the train and the speed of the train correctly. And we want to take away those opportunities for people to cut across the tracks in places where it just isn't safe. You wouldn't do that on an interstate highway. We certainly don't want that to happen on a railroad crossing. So what we will do, and what we've already done with a program that the board has funded for a few years, is we look at the data in places where we have issues with crossings, and sometimes it doesn't result in any fatalities, but we hear from engineers that we're having a lot of crossings at a certain location. Maybe it's near a school or near a neighborhood where there's something going on, and we target our fencing efforts in those locations. So my hope is we can just accelerate and expand the coverage of that. And then just as important is, unfortunately, people cut holes in the fence. So they're good shortcuts, and people will come out and cut holes in the fence. So we have to keep an eye on it and get reports back on where there are holes in the fence. And actually, a lot of our customers will send us reports when they see stuff, which we certainly value when we hear back from our customers on those issues. Sorry, long-winded answer on that, but I hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Very good. Director Rayburn.
Thank you, Rob, for your report. I'd like to comment a bit briefly on the projected service levels, which I'm in strong support of increasing, and particularly in the long term with the South Bay Connect. But in the near term, I would like to be data-driven on our decisions on how and when to provide service and to whom. And I'd like to piggyback a bit on Director Spearing's earlier request for more detailed ridership demographics, and that we also have more detailed ridership by train, so that we can better assess what's going on with the weekday versus weekend and particular travel times and markets that we're serving. I'm seeing and hearing from groups that I've shared with you earlier, Sacramento bike ride that overwhelmed our train service a month ago, and we weren't prepared for it. And it's something that, those are the kinds of things that we should be helping to educate people on. But if we could just, before the next meeting in August, see some of these little more granular data on our riders and which trains they're on. I don't know if both can be combined, but I do know that we have ridership data by train.
Yeah, let me see what we can pull together. One possibility is we could send out some detailed summaries in those monthly performance reports. Maybe we can figure out a way to share that broadly. And we agree with you on that comment and appreciate that comment. There are a couple things that I'll mention that will be helpful to our decisions. One is we're going to do our annual rider survey. I think it might be next week that we're doing that annual rider survey. And what we're trying to keep an eye on is how things change over time. And we're now 2 years into the pandemic, and we're not at a stable point, but we're at a more stable point. And we may look at a less peak period driven service. That does require, if you remember when we changed our schedule last time, it is an extended process with Union Pacific to work through schedule change. We have an approved 15 round trip schedule with UP. So if we turn on or off a train within that approved schedule, it's a very quick change. If we make a modification to that schedule that's been approved, it can take a long time with Union Pacific. But we do think we want to make sure we're serving our customers correctly. We have some gaps in our service during the day, and we still do have a focus on peaks, but we're going to keep an eye on that and see if we need to make any modifications to that. We do have very detailed origin destination data by train. We do not have great detail on who those individuals are, where they live. One of the great things, and I'm going to add another great thing about Cal ITP, because we can't get this through the current Amtrak data set, is that we will know more about our customers, and we're going to be able to follow when we change a schedule, what happens, how do our customers respond in real time. So know that we are pulling lots of data. We're with you 100% on the comment, and we'll get back to you and share some of that summary data.
Excellent
with the board.
response. Give me optimism.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Haudeshelt?
Yeah, Mr. Paget, does your survey include folks who are on buses as well that maybe potentially would be on a train?
Yeah, it includes we try to reach out. It's not a super scientific survey, so we hand out cards on the train, for example, with a scanning code to make it super easy. So we want people to respond. And then Priscilla and team, they push it out through a lot of our social channels as well. So there's probably a little bit of bias towards regular riders, but we also do have our consultant hand out cards on the trains to get as broad of a sample as you can get.
But there was a little bit of a blowback or a little concern in when the schedule changed and became earlier in Placer County.
Yeah.
So I think maybe my perspective is there's a segment that would be on the train, but are on buses. So I just want to make sure that's somehow captured in your data.
Yeah, we also get bus data as well. Very detailed bus data. We actually even get origin destination data on buses. So if you get on at Sacramento, you get off at Roseville, or you get off at Rockland, or you get off at Auburn, we do get that summary data. We have been watching, and I'm well aware of the issue that you're describing. We have folks in Placer County who love the fact that we leave at 5:10 a.m. because they want to be in Santa Clara at an early hour. And then we have people that are certainly not happy with us about that change. And so what we're hoping to do is provide really good bus connections there. We already do that, right? We have limited service. And then, as you know, get that third track funded. And that first phase of that project will let us add 2 more round trips into Placer County. And I do believe that when we get that done, that we're going to be able to, won't be quite as robust as the Sacramento to Oakland service, but I do think that's going to provide enough of a service that we can meet more of the expectations of people in Placer County. So all that we're watching that closely. But I will say to all of you is the anecdotal stuff does matter. We do listen to it, and if we have customers listening, we look at every comment we get and we try to respond to all those comments. And we love creativity that comes from any direction. So please keep giving us feedback.
Well, I'm looking for your TikTok video.
I'm not going to perform in it, but I'll get somebody to do it for me.
Okay, very good. We have one more director with a comment. Director Dowden Calvillo.
Yes, thank you. Rob, I just wanted to clarify, you were mentioning that you're looking to change that 5:10 a.m. departure time to 6:10. Is that what you said? Did you say about an hour? Is that what you were saying?
So we have to, this is one where we have to get, yes, we have to get this approved by UP. We want to do that, but continue the service all the way to San Jose. So when we did that previously, that later train, it required that the train only go down to Oakland. And so with that schedule change, it let us provide the service all the way down to San Jose. So the details that we're working through now is we want to make sure that we still provide a direct connection for people in Placer County who want to go all the way south of Oakland, but hopefully do it an hour later. And that would also require that we bring back train 529, which is currently not running.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that having that connection to Santa Clara is important as well. So I look forward to hearing more about this as discussions progress. Thank you.
We will keep you all posted on that as we look at the details.
So Rob, have you completed items 6 and 7 in your presentation?
I have. I'll be happy to take any questions on those.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the board? Okay, we have one request for public comment. Mr. Barnbaum, is this comment pertaining to the top two items, or is it general public comment? See, Mike, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes. No, it's on the topic of the service that Rob touched on and I addressed at the April meeting, but it had unfortunately at that meeting not been on the agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
Rob, thank you so much for placing this very important, passionate item on the agenda. Shortly after the April meeting, I put together a very thoughtful, time-consuming email focusing on improving the weekend holiday train schedule back to the pre-pandemic schedule, but more focusing on 11 round trips, 7 to San Jose, and 1 to and from Auburn. And to the comments that were made earlier in today's meeting about the 49ers and special trains and stuff, that was critically thought of shortly after the NFL came out with their full 2022 season schedule. And one thing I took note of was the Sunday night games that start in the 5 o'clock hour or the Monday night games that start in the 5 o'clock hour. And in particular, because the focus was weekends and holidays. And Rob, I think you and Leo and even Director Saltzman were included in that April email. I recommended for weekends and holidays that a train depart San Jose at 9:05 at night, arriving in Oakland at 10:10 at night, continuing up to Sacramento. I think that would be one thing that would significantly address the Sunday night games at Levi's Stadium. And instead of being a special train, it would be a regularly scheduled train. I hope that you can comment as to whether you received the email back in April and if that detailed email is the basis of what you're working on for the schedule change in the fall. Thank you.
Well, Mike, thank you for the comment. And Rob, you don't need to respond at this moment, but if I think you can follow up with Mr. Bonbaum directly. Let's go to, I think we have no other public comment requests. Is that correct? Okay.
I don't see any additional hands raised.
Thank you very much. So we'll now go to Board Director Reports, item 6. Does anyone have a comment for the good of the cause? I don't see any. Now we'll go to item 7, which is public comment on matters not on our agenda, but hopefully pertaining to the scope of this organization. Is there any public comment on items not on our agenda? I don't see any. So that brings us to item 8, which is adjournment. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st from beginning at 10 o'clock, and we'll see where the location will be when we get to that, get closer. Is there any reason we shouldn't adjourn at this point, Mr. Patch?
Nope, we're ready to adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Very productive meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Especially thanks to staff for a well-run meeting.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.